What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Here This Morning, presented to you by NoleGameDay.com. Florida State is on a winning streak, Nate, and it's a winning streak not only against an opponent on the field, but also along with an opponent and the stripes with the ACC refs. Florida State takes down Boston College 26-23 in Chestnut Hill.
I would say Florida State 26, Boston College 3, 6. Give them 6, and then we'll give the refs the rest. 17.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like the highlight of this game. And the biggest topic is about how awful the ACC refs were. But Florida State starts off this game strong, putting up 19 points. They get a safety there. Big time hit there from Deloge, and it causes that safety to happen. But Florida State puts 7 points up in the first quarter, puts up 12 second quarter, 7 in the third. In the fourth quarter, it was just holding on for dear life against the ACC refs. The majority of that. We got to hear all about Flowers on Boston College. Had about a mini documentary about every other minute there from the ACC network. Nothing better than them, we all know. Should have been a fumble, too, from Georgia.
Yeah, I missed that. I was in transit. So what happened there?
So I was going to throw the ball. The arm doesn't even get a full extension. It's about right here, and the ball gets knocked out. I believe either Kier or Jermaine, one of the two, caused that to happen and just not called. They actually rule it fumble, and Robert Cooper recovers it, and then they go into review and they say it's not a fumble. So another putrid, awful call by the ACC refs that ruined Florida State's big time play there, and that was in the red zone for Boston College also. So. That's pretty much highlights. Sadly, that's what highlights a pretty strong game from a majority of guys. Jordan Travis goes 251 yards for 3 touchdowns, 20 of 34. And Florida State finds its rushing game again with over 114 yards on the ground.
One thing that Steve and I were talking about on the Mark Rogers podcast was, because I kind of get like a rhetorical, how come Florida State continues to fall flat in the second half? What's going on? I thought the discussion was pretty legitimate, where we talked about how it's clear. We talked about it here on this podcast this past week. I think we all feel that Norvell and Dillingham have a really, really good pulse on this offense right now, in terms of personnel and what they want to do. But they don't have the ability or the pieces yet to respond to the adjustments. So, once these coaches adjust to it, FSU is capped in terms of the talent across the board. And I think that's what's making it tough for this coaching staff to adjust to the adjustments, because they only have a finite amount of ability on this team, and it impacts the game every week. And I think that we've seen the defense suffer from that, but they've been able to really just hold on and make plays. And that's been the difference. The limited rotations that we've talked about before. But you go back to Travis, another great game through the air. He was efficient, some really well-placed balls. In the first half, he had a couple guys drop balls that could have led to some more points. Just another great game,
Taking care of the ball.
Yep. I would have, as I was say no turnovers. I would have liked to see FSU run more, especially in the second half. But I personally thought the game was over when McClain caught that touchdown coming out of the half. I thought that was going to be a wrap.
Yeah, I thought that was a sealer right there. And what an incredible catch. I think the plays of the game had to have been Malik McClain along with Akeem Dent. But that Malik McClain, that's something that you kind of been waiting on with him. He's kind of had a little dry streak, but man, he is linked. I mean, he's looking at him at practice. That size is a difference maker, and he used it, and Jordan Travis put it up there for him, and he brought it down. And what a catch by a true freshman. He's going to be fun to watch the next couple of years. And then Akeem Dent comes down with the interception. He seems to be putting himself in really good positions. Akeem Dent's been having a good latter half of the season.
Well, for sure. He's healthy this year. Last year, he wasn't. And, I think the move back to safety is a great spot for him, and he's played well. I want to jump right into the defensive ends that FSU has. I don't think it's being out of the box to see that Florida State has the best tandem of DNs right now in the country. You can look at maybe Georgia, Clemson, not very many other teams, maybe Bama, if that, but the whole defensive line is just playing their ass off. And the way that Keir Thomas has played recently has really balanced out the defensive line even more. And it's opened it up some for Jermaine again. And he was a force today, but Keir Thomas had like 7 tackles, 2 sacks, quite a few tackles for loss, 5 hits on the quarterback, something like that. It's just all over the place today. You see even seeing Ray step up, especially in the run game. I think over Dustin and Austin, I think you and I really hammered the loss of Briggs early in the season. I think you and I were more concerned than the other guys about it. But those guys are Fabian's taking another step. The emergence of Ray has been really positive for this defensive line.
Yeah, Malcolm Ray had a pretty decent game too. Keir Thomas, I mean, we talk about Jermaine Johnson all the time because that's just Jermaine Johnson. But man, Keir Thomas, have a game, why don't you, buddy? Keir Thomas racking up again 2 sacks this weekend and almost totaled the whole team in tackles.
Should have been a third when he didn't wrap up on that.
Yeah,
I don't know if he thought that he got rid of the ball or what.
Something happened there, and he probably already knew about what the ACC refs would have done if he would have took him to the ground, and then that would have been a flag, and they would have called targeting, roughing the passer, every single thing imaginable with that ACC refs crew. But McClellan actually leads the team in tackles in this one, but Keir Thomas, Kevin Knowles, Brownlee, and Deloach. Deloach also, what a game by him where he had with a beat and coverage at the last second, and I believe it was a tight end on Boston College's side. And it looks like they're going to make a big gain there. And he, just in the nick of time, is able to make a PBU on the ball. Yeah,
it's on that same play where Keir didn't sack Djokovic. He same play. And he came in like a missile on that safety, man. He read that so well. And perfect form tackle. He tackled right through that running back, man. Put his ass to the ground.
Yeah, he did. Let's talk about also Florida State's, offense overall. You had Jordan Travis do his thing, but you also had Ja'Kai Douglas once again, big time play there between Travis and him connecting. And they talked about it this week. They want to get him more involved. They want 22 in there because he has that speed and he's pretty reliable with catching the ball too. So Ja'Kai Douglas also has a big time game here with 44 yards during the afternoon. Ontario Wilson 60 and then 54.
Like those 44, it's not like a big statistic game, but it was when he had those catches. They were at important times with drives at the game,
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that comes right when you need it the most. And Cam McDonald was utilized a lot too. I mean, he had a lot of PT in this game. Lawrence Toafili makes his comeback here and gets a touchdown. So good to see that he's back to 100% or close to it.
How awful was that pass interference on Jordan Wilson, man?
Yeah, the guy that ruined where Florida State, they ended up punting that ball.
Yes.
Couldn't even get a field goal right there. That would have been almost close to just starting to steal away that game, and that was completely total BS. That was the beginning of. We kind of knew then that was going to be the day for the ACC refs.
Yep. I think I tweeted right after that, it's going to be one of those days with the refs. And it was, man. 13 penalties. They called 18 total. 13 on Florida State. I don't think they called one. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the stat box yet, but I don't think they called one hold on Boston College. In that just god-awful sequence of back-to-back illegal formations on the offensive line because they're not, they're lined up one step back. And I'm sitting here looking at that Arkansas-Alabama game, and right now the right tackle for Arkansas is lined up the same exact way that Darius Washington was lined up. You can call it every play in football. And it's just horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, horrid. I mean, the one where Keir Thomas was being held by like a mother F. I mean, getting
Mhm.
held so horribly. I mean,
In front of the refs.
anybody could see it. Just blatant hold wasn't called. Jermaine Johnson gets always about 4 holds that are never called throughout a game,
Mhm.
anyways.
The pass interference on Marion Cooper, that was awful.
Yeah, that was god awful.
I
I
mean,
thought that was on Boston College. That's what Amarian thought too. I was like, okay, that's a flag on Boston College that ruins that drive. All right, cool. And no, complete opposite there. That's the thing here. This is what happens. This is how Florida State. This is how this game got so close. 13 penalties, 120 yards, and a lot of those still ruined Florida State's drive. Not only though, Florida State did put themselves in their own bad spots where they ruined a drive where they had 2 back-to-back penalties on the offensive line, which looked embarrassing. Then they had delay of game and ended up having to punt. That was just.
I think you and I can both agree that Florida State's not talented enough yet to not be able to beat them. Go to push through beating themselves with penalties, and then having the rest on top of it. They're just not good enough to pull through. But they did today. But they made it a lot harder than it had to be. Again, they could have blown out Miami, let them back in the game. They let Boston College back in the game today. Some of that's part of having a young team that's still learning how to win. But let me bring this up to you because I brought this up to Steve too. Really, really, really like seeing Norvell on the sideline today, just digging into people.
Yeah,
the refs. Digging into Chris Marv on the goal line. I love seeing that. It's the first time we've really seen that. And I think this team is feeding off of that.
Yeah, that's who he is, I think, overall as a coach. And he was not only that, too, about just being fired up on the sideline, but also with some big dick energy. Calling these timeouts. They still want to put up points on the board. They wanted to put this away at halftime, and they got close to doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he was one to put this away early and calling those timeouts with 2 minutes left, a little over 2 minutes left, and trying to get the ball back. I mean, that was, and then he called another timeout too, where there was just less than a minute left too. I mean, he was trying to put this ball game away at halftime.
Yep.
And now he was really, really, really aggressive today.
And I think too, that's a completely opposite approach than what we saw from him early in the year. I think he's a lot more confident in the team, and he was confident.
He was really confident in his offense. That's why he was doing. He wanted to get the ball back in
for sure
Jordan Travis's hand because that was just easy money. Guys being wide open, their secondary couldn't cover anything for the most part.
Boston College. What I kind of hit on it a few times when we were talking about our score predictions that they weren't really good against the run. I felt Florida State probably could have ran a little bit more, but against the passing defense has been pretty solid. Again, Florida State found holes in the defense and they took their shots. They had that nice chunk play down the sideline after they forced a turnover on downs. That goes back to Norvell. Really coaching to get that W, which is. Great to see. We haven't seen this kind of stuff since Jimbo, the heyday Jimbo with, coaching to win, coaching with purpose. So, I feel really, really good going into next week's game against Florida.
Alex Mascherano, I want to give him some love too because some of the punts that he had today were incredible. They're punting, getting a stop there. Also, to the guys going down there to field the ball.
Yeah,
but he had some great punts, pinning Boston College back and deep into their 5 there and onto the 1 too. I mean, he's just incredible this season overall. But today,
maybe overall the best special teams game in terms of punt return, kick return was okay. Their kick return defense was probably the worst of it.
Yeah,
but I don't know what the hell that kick was after they went up after that first touchdown at the second half. I don't know what that was, but
yeah.
I mean, overall, man, I think you have to like where this team is at. We were talking after 0-4, does this team win a game? We talked about after they beat Carolina. okay, maybe they get to 3. Now we're talking about them having what I feel is a better than 50-50 chance of getting to the 6-win plateau and getting a bowl game.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's crazy.
It's wild that the ups and downs, but the uprise, that vertical trend that you're seeing from Florida State right now. And, you coming off of a Miami game too, emotional win, thriller there, and you could easily just ride that wave and just go into this win. We saw that. We saw where they almost beat Notre Dame, and then they just did not even show up for the Jacksonville State game whatsoever. And so they're learning, they're progressing, and they're getting better in that shape. And that's what Norvell has wanted to build, is that culture, getting better at that, responding. He keeps saying that. He said it 80 times during the interviews today. Response.
Yeah. And, you look at 0-4 now, they're 5-2 in their last 7. Have a chance to. There's a chance of finishing the season 7-6. You get to a bowl, and to wrap that season up with that record. There's a lot to be positive about the direction of the program. When there was a lot of questions at 0-4 in terms of, is Norvell the guy? Who needs to be fired? I mean, everyone was asking every question as we were, which I think was legitimate. But even if they don't win next week, you still have to feel good about the direction of this program.
And I'll end it off here too with one of my points is that Florida State, we were thinking offensively and defensively during that first half, you were able to see what Florida State can really do. It can be lethal almost and put away games at the half against a good opponent. But they still struggle to of doing that in 4 quarters. Wait until Florida State can do this offensively and defensively in 4 quarters and see what this team can do. That's what the promise is there. That's an optimistic thing to think about.
I saw someone say on Twitter, this team plays like Memphis did with Norvell. What's the problem with that, man? His last year, they were undefeated for most of the season. If Norvell can get FSU to that level, it's going to be a different animal because he's going to have better players. So, I mean, yeah, I hope it gets like that because that offense was ridiculous at Memphis.
You think Adams kind of sealed up? He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, we talked about that on the Mark Rogers post game. I think that he's done well enough to where he's given himself another season. The defense has played tremendously. They've fought hard. They're producing. They're getting after the quarterback. They're getting turnovers. There's been some times where they played poorly. The communication on the back end. That really suffered when Robinson went out. You really saw a drop off there today. It's not perfect, but I think he's done well enough that he deserves a chance to go into next year. And then you see where you're at that point, because, as much as, I think you and I have been kind of drumming that drum about a change, but also too, if you look at the players' point of view and this program, how much would continuity, how much of a benefit would that be? Having, 3 years in a row, the same coach and the same system, to continue to progress and grow in. So it's going to be a little bit different defense next year. You're losing 2 really good DNs, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I definitely think he's probably locked himself into another year.
I believe so too. After watching today in the last couple of weeks, Dustin saying what's up all the way up there from Dustin? Boston. He went up there and got his win. Hopefully he's drank a beer by now. Hopefully, I don't know. Please.
If any of his friends will listen, make sure that you get him a sweaty lumberjack shot.
Sweaty lumberjack shot. I was going to mention just one last thing too. For Jamie going out, Jarquez McClellan came in and led the team in tackles, so it's good that you could substitute, and you still miss Jamie. He's one of your best tacklers on the team overall.
I thought, he had the most tackles, but I think if you rewatch the game, you're going to see where he was out of position a lot. Even on goal line situations, he was wrong run fits, filling the wrong holes. So, I think that you look at that stop box, you have to take a little bit into consideration if you watch him play and how much. He didn't necessarily struggle, but he took himself out of a lot of plays.
Mm-hmm. So, but luckily you have Robinson back next week, which you're going to want. Florida State will be there to give you guys full coverage to potentially be the ending to the season, or could it not be? Do we extend here and have full coverage head into later in December? We'll see. But Florida State takes down Boston College 26-23. Florida State will face the Florida Gators next week at noon.
Can't wait.
It's going to be a fun time. Nate, you sure you don't want to go?
No, I don't. I can't.
Gainesville.
I mean, my situation at work right now. I would love to,
busy.
But running short. So
first thoughts heading into it.
I think you got to like where it's a style matchup where FSU can have a marked advantage running the ball against that Florida defense. I think that this is a game where FSU has a physical advantage, which you haven't seen that in the last few years against a Florida, Clemson, Miami game. You haven't seen that. So I think this is a game where FSU can really control the game on the ground, which we've seen lately. He's opened up some stuff for Travis in the passing game. I think that offensively for them, I don't see a lot of threats. I just think it's two teams moving in the wrong direction. One's moving up, lots of positive.
Different directions, yeah.
Yeah, different direction. I mean, the other one is just,
yeah,
what's happened there. And right now I think it's like 6-6 with Missouri. This is a team that if FSU can get up 19-3, or to that score, I think that Florida's a team that just quits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's what I feel like watching them play the last couple of weekends. I mean, you give up that much last weekend, that many points last weekend.
Mm-hmm. And I think Mullen is a really good X's and O's coach, but I think it's just the writing's on the wall with where this team is going, where that program's going.
Yeah, they're all over the place defensively, and right now it seems like Dillingham and Norvell are kind of clicking in what they need to do, definitely game-wise, and starting off the game, and they did that really well against Boston College. Boston College starts off really well in games, at least this latter half, with their guy being back, quarterback Jurkovic. And so
I don't think it's
Jurkovic.
I think it's pretty.
It's going to be interesting.
I think it's an honest assessment to say that this is probably Norvell's most important game. Get to bowl eligibility, to beat Miami and Florida. It's huge. This team's got to be ready, man.
Yep, they have to be. So we'll have full coverage on that. Always appreciate y'all hopping in here and hanging out. We'll definitely deep dive more into recapping this game. We just wanted to jump on here for a little bit and give you guys our instant reaction to Florida State's fifth win of the season against Boston College and the ACC refs. 26-23.
A win
is a win. A win is a win, and you see that vertical growth there. Slowly but surely. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Subscribe, like, do all that kind of jazz. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you guys next. We don't know yet. It's going to be one of the days. It might be Tuesday. Might be Tuesday night. We don't really know yet because of Thanksgiving. We usually go out live on Thursday night. So we're going to figure it out, but we'll see you sometime probably early next week. So, y'all have a great weekend, and we'll have a good podcast for you guys next week. Don't worry about that. See y'all.